When you think of Christmas, a pretty clear picture probably pops into your head, right? Trees, gifts, big family meals. But Christmas is celebrated all over the world, and what it means and how it's celebrated can look completely different depending on where you are. Today, we're going to explore what happens when Christmas meets Native American cultures, creating these really unique and powerful expressions of a global holiday.
So that gets us to the big question for this whole explainer. What really happens when a global holiday, with all of its own complex history and traditions, runs into a culture that is ancient and deeply, deeply rooted in its own ways?
Well, the answer is absolutely fascinating. It becomes this incredible story of resilience, of creative adaptation, and of finding brand new, profound meaning. It's not just about, adopting a holiday, it's about completely reimagining it.
Okay, so let's dive right in. To really get what's happening with these traditions today, we've got to start with a look back at a pretty complicated history.
Look, there's no way around it. Christmas was first brought to Native American peoples through European colonization. And this wasn't some casual sharing of holiday cheer. For centuries, holidays like Christmas were part of a very deliberate effort by settlers and missionaries to assimilate indigenous peoples, often forcing them to give up their own spiritual practices. And the way this unfolded is really interesting. What started with colonization and then got more focused with these missionary efforts eventually led to something amazing: creative adaptation. This is the moment when Native communities really started to take the holiday and reshape it to fit their own cultures, their own values, their own worldview. And we have to be honest here, this history is not simple at all. For a lot of Native people, it creates a very real tension, a conflict between, on one hand, participating in a Christian holiday, and on the other, honoring their own indigenous spiritual ways. It's a complex legacy that exists right alongside all the celebration. So with all this tension and adaptation, you might be wondering, how does this blending of cultures even work? Well, one of the sources we looked at offered this really powerful way to think about it, a metaphor they call the grafted branch. Okay, so here's the idea. Picture an ancient tree. That tree is indigenous culture. Now imagine a new branch being grafted onto it. That branch is Christmas. The fruit that this new branch eventually grows is nourished not by the branch itself, but by the deep, strong, established roots of that ancient tree. It's fed by its heritage, its values, and its ceremonies. And this is where that metaphor just comes alive. You can literally see how these new elements, like evergreen trees or gift-giving, were grafted onto those deep indigenous roots. For instance, the timing of Christmas often lined up perfectly with winter ceremonies that were already happening for centuries. Christian symbols like stars were blended beautifully with powerful native symbols like feathers. And the holiday feasts, they became this amazing fusion, with traditional foods like wild game and corn dishes sitting right next to the usual holiday staples. And you see this fusion everywhere, especially in the art and decorations. We're talking ornaments covered in intricate beadwork and quillwork, skills passed down for generations, wreaths made with local pine cones and sacred feathers. You might see ornaments shaped like eagles or bears, animals with deep meaning for the tribe. And the gatherings themselves become a time for elders to share creation stories and lessons from their ancestors with the younger kids. All right, so let's zoom in on one tradition to see how this grafted branch idea really plays out: gift giving. Because this is where the incredible depth of this cultural fusion becomes crystal clear. I just love this quote from one of our sources. It says, "Gift giving is like weaving a thread into a tribal tapestry. Each gift serves to strengthen the fabric of the community." That just captures it perfectly, doesn't it? It's not about buying something, it's about connection, about making the whole community stronger. So the key here is that giving a gift is so much more than a transaction. First off, it's a way to honor ancestral skill. Gifts are often handmade things like pottery or beadwork, celebrating these incredible crafts. Second, it strengthens the bonds of the community, putting relationships way above commercialism. And finally, it actually helps preserve a living culture by passing that knowledge, that tradition, on to the next generation, with every single piece that's made and shared. Okay, so let's fast forward to right now, because these traditions aren't just surviving, they are a vibrant, living way of celebrating resilience. In so many Native communities today, the holiday season has become this amazing opportunity for cultural expression. For example, if you go to the Southwest, many Pueblo peoples mark Christmas with traditional dances, dances that have been performed for centuries, blending ancient ceremony right into the holiday.
Other tribes might host big public powwows or holiday markets, which are all about building community and showcasing their incredible culture. And this brings up something really important that all of us can do. One of the best ways to honor Native culture during the holidays is to support indigenous artisans. When you're buying gifts, think about buying directly from Native creators or through tribal cooperatives. I mean, these aren't just beautiful things. They are gifts that are packed with story, with skill, with cultural meaning. You're not just buying a product, you're supporting a living heritage. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, by learning about these diverse practices, we can all start to see Christmas a little differently. It pushes us beyond the typical commercial stuff and helps us build a deeper respect for cultural differences and the beautiful, resilient ways people express who they are. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This whole story of adaptation and resilience really makes you wonder, what is it that gives any tradition its true meaning? Is it where it started, or is it the people who keep it alive, reshaping it to reflect who they are, right here, right now?